All right, I got 7 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. If you'd stand for the invocation and remain standing for the pledge. Don, will you lead us? Okay.
May we pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings of life you've given us. Thank you for the opportunity you give us to serve you as capacity as city council and as citizens. Help us always, Lord, to look to you for the answers, because you are the truth, the life, and the way. And you are the ones who can show us and help us along our ways. Lord, please be with us. Help us as we make decisions. Give us the knowledge, skills, and abilities to always do the right thing. For it's in the blessed name of Jesus we do pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item is the approval of the minutes for the October 5th regular meeting. You received them in your packet. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I make that motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any additional comments? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Head?
Yes.
All right, next is the adoption of the agenda. Anything additional?
Mayor, I'd add under H1 under the city engineer's report that there may be potential action.
All right, anything else? I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So ordered.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Head?
Yes.
All right, next item is the winners for the If I Were Mayor essay. Taylor, you want
Sure.
to take over this?
So we invited all of our winners today. We have Miss Emmy Goen, our 6th grade winner, who's here. And if Emmy would like to, she is more than welcome to read her essay to City Council and the Mayor. I thought, to me, it was my favorite essay out of all of them, so I would love her to share it with everyone. If not, I will read it for her if she doesn't feel comfortable reading it.
And Taylor, I think
He wants to read it.
traditionally
You come up
does,
here.
we want you to come sit in the mayor's seat.
Come up here and read it.
Come right this way. I'll have you sit over here.
Anthony, before you read that, tell them what your dream job is.
My dream job is to be the Secretary of Education for the United States.
All right.
This is my essay for what I would do as mayor. By me, Emmy Goen. If I were mayor, the things I would do would ensure the people a happy and safe community. As mayor, I believe it is important to help the people of the city. I would address safety, housing, and economic issues throughout the town that I have grown to love and respect. As mayor, the first thing I would do is improve poor and homeless people's living conditions in the area. For the poor, I would deliver monthly care packages. These packages would include food, water, and hygiene products. For the homeless, I would turn abandoned buildings into homeless shelters. This would provide the people with safe, warm, and clean living conditions. Another thing I would do is help the low-income people afford decent housing. I would provide them with the opportunity to purchase a home. I would form a city organization to help raise money for the supplies to build new homes. Also, I would try my best to decrease the rates of utilities. By doing these things, I hope to improve my citizens' quality of life. Lastly, I would provide more safety resources for the neighborhoods. I would hire more law enforcement. I would encourage community and neighborhood watch groups. This action would also help enforce the sense of safety among my citizens. These are the things that I would do to help improve the community of Thomaston. I have hope that these actions will instill trust and communication throughout the people.
Good job.
Great. Well done. Very good. Those are
Hard to follow
I
that.
know. Hard.
I support her being mayor.
I'm glad there's not a mayor election this year.
You got my vote.
You probably got my vote.
So
Can you
I
start
wanna
next
say,
week?
If you haven't had a chance, go by Tidal Wave, their corporate headquarters in downtown, and you can see we took snippets from all the essay winners and we printed those out on banners, and they're hung up on the side of Tidal Wave. So you can go and check out some of those. Highly recommend that.
All right. And also, there's another position called County Commissioner Chairman that you can put in for too if you don't want to be the mayor. Just saying. Which leads us, by the way, we are pleasure to have Chairman Norman Allen from the County Commissioners show up today. He wanted to come speak, so we let him go.
Well, I picked a great night to come, didn't I? Knocked it out of the park. So I know y'all got a lot of business to talk to, but I really felt like it's important to come up here because, you know, I may not live inside the corporate city limits of Thomaston, but Thomaston is my home. It's been my home forever, even though I spent a long time away. And we learned a long time ago, in this business that I find myself in as a commissioner, that it takes a strong city to make a strong county. Strong cities make strong counties, and strong counties make strong cities. And, and I want to ask Ms. Reeves and Mr. Grayhouse this, did you ever think there was a teacher that taught us back in 1977 that we'd ever be sitting here having these conversations? I can't think of one that would have thought I would have been here. And I don't know about Ms. Reeves and Mr. Gray. If y'all didn't know, we all graduated high school in the same class, class 77. So anyway, this city means a lot to me. I've had the pleasure of working with you guys now for some time on a lot of, big projects. And, I just want to tell you, it has warmed my heart over the last couple of months to see a lot of the stuff that you've been working on, that we've been working on as a community, start to come to fruition. A lot of this stuff, was stuff that we've been working on, you've been working on for years. And, so it is great to see it coming to fruition. The rural zone designation. How many years did you work on the revision to the alcohol ordinance to encourage growth downtown, 2 at least? Your Main Street programs and master plan. And a lot of this, and we can't take credit for it. Y'all aren't taking credit for it. You're getting it done. It's coming from the citizens. It's coming through efforts like Heart and Soul that helped give us some of the community buy-in that we needed to do some of this stuff. So I tell you, I'm just really encouraged with what you've done in the last couple of months. Mr. Taylor has come in at the right time. A lot of times it's the right guy at the right place at the right time, and he's helped get the ball across the goal line. But I know that a lot of this stuff is, like you said, it's been going on for some time. I just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. As a community, we've got to do continue to look for innovative ways to tackle some of the issues that we have with housing, residential housing, workforce housing. You know, every chance I get, I talk about, you know, we need people to come build homes in our community, and we specifically need people to build homes inside the city of Thomaston. I had a chance to talk to Taylor and Bobby Ellington today in the hallway or office, and was really encouraged to learn, you know, the efforts that some builders are putting into inside the city to bring workforce type housing so that, you know, new teachers and new healthcare providers and new professionals have a place to live in the community that they work in. You know, JD and I have had lots and lots of conversations, as I have with Russell and Jason Tinsley, you know, about workforce development initiatives. You know, I'm pleased that our IDA is still addressing some of those issues, and we continue to fight that battle every day and look for, you know, that workforce development task force to get more people to the table so that there's things that we can do locally to encourage people to enter the workforce, you know, rather than some other options that may be available out there. So I just want to tell you how much as a citizen, I'm thankful, and as a commissioner, I'm grateful. So thank you.
All right, next item is the city attorney's report.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
All right. City clerk's report.
Nothing at this time.
All right. I haven't called on you to come up here.
Trying to save you the trouble.
Our city
Can you please stay back with seat?
I don't think engineer is back.
You wouldn't give me a hard time this early, would you? Good evening.
Good evening.
So what we want to do is take a moment, like Russell mentioned earlier, we may have cause to ask for a vote on a particular course that we might set out as we discuss this, but the first thing I'd like to do is walk through a new rule that has been batted about with previous administrations in DC. This is concerning the lead service line issue. So this goes back to the original Clean Water Act, that recognizing that lead services can be a threat, that lead leaching from the inside of these services is not a good thing for our drinking water. And the Trump administration had put forth a rule that was a little more lax than what it seemed like the Biden administration is going to want to go with. There was a period of time there around the end of the first quarter where either the new rule put forth by Trump modifying this old lead service rule was going to be enacted, and Biden basically came in and froze that legislation to consider it through EPA for further information. The guidance that we've received recently, and by recently I mean in the last month or so, is that we think we know how it's going to end up, is the point. So that the rule has been pushed forth for public comment, and the comments have been received for the most part, and we've been able to track kind of how this legislation seems to be coming about. But the rule as it stands today, and is more than likely to be finalized in the next few months, is that every municipality in the country will have to do a lead service line inventory of all of their services in their city, and that would have to be completed by the end of 2024. So what this entails for you is that lead service lines are relatively rare here. This was used a lot in the Northeast, almost. I mean, if you're looking at Chicago, New York City, these areas may have 100% lead service lines from Maine all the way in and throughout the housing. So for us, we would be surprised to find full lead service lines. But the rule that has been, it seems as though most definitely has been pushed out to the public, and most definitely seems to be the one that's going to be taken on, is that if you have a lead gooseneck, which is the way that the old contractors would tie into a water main, you would have a lead gooseneck that would come up and make a grade adjustment, because we're relatively deep with our mains, and then we're going up to the meter box. It sits just so far below the ground that those, if there's galvanized pipeline following a lead gooseneck, it qualifies as a lead service. Well, that more than likely is going to hit in Thomaston. Okay, so Russell and I have had these conversations, and most of our municipalities are not rushing to handle this. You know, you've got a few years to get the inventory done. Just to tell you a little bit about what that entails is that pretty well every meter box in the entire city will need to be opened, and we can check to see what type of service is coming in and what type of service is coming out in that box for the most part. So if we see poly or some sort of plastic pipe on the main side of the meter, we're kind of saying, okay, unless we have some other knowledge, we're going to say that's not a galvanized or lead service, okay? If there are roads or areas that we know there to be lead goosenecks, then probably it's going to require, regardless, it's going to require a window cut for all of our pipelines that are in the roadway. And we're going to have to go down and physically check these. So this inventory, the good news is that any houses built after 86, right around in there, are not going to have lead service, goosenecks either. But most of our houses here in the city are probably built, many of our houses are built before 86, 88. So the inventory effort is considerable, but Russell and I have contemplated, as this rule has reformed over the last few months, have contemplated how does this affect our paving work? You know, do we have a road within our paving project for T-Splosh this year that is going to be massively impacted by this rule? Because what we don't want to do is go out and pave and then find we have to cut windows all through the new paving. No one's going to like that. What I can tell you is we did an inventory, and what we don't know is whether there's lead services. We believe there could be on several of the roads, but our quick inventory of pulling meter boxes and checking has shown us there's not a lot of galvanized services, but there is concern about whether or not there's lead goosenecks. So we were able to go out to every road within the city limits that's on the T-Splosh list. Eastleigh, we suspect there could be 2. We're not sure. It would require a window cut. East Thompson is 9. Davis Street is 1. North Bethel is 35. And the rest were 0. So, like I said, this is not a guarantee that there's any lead goosenecks anywhere in here. And to be honest, the chances of a lead gooseneck triggering a sampling event that would show lead concentrations above the concern level is probably not considerable. I'm thinking that, you know, you consider how much water you have that is sitting in contact with the lead service. It's a big difference than just a gooseneck, which is, you know, this big versus a service line that could be, you know, 50 feet, 60 feet. So the point that Russell wanted me to appear before you is there are all sorts of sampling requirements. I mean, this is a heavy-duty bill that will be played out over the next 15 to 20 years. The requirement for replacement would start in 2025 and would include a 7% per year replacement of your lead services should you have them. That requirement isn't just on the city, it's also on the property owner to replace those services at their cost. Otherwise, there are all sorts of sampling requirements that are going to come into place. For any lead service that's left, you have to do annual sampling to prove that the contaminant levels are not above drinking water quality standards. So schools will have to be sampled once a year, on and on and on. So there's going to be a lot of work done, but all of it's well into the future right now. The problem we're faced with is what do we do with our paving project under this guidance. We're receiving pricing right now for what it will cost to replace services on all of these roads prior to our paving project. But what we're looking at is with how tough North Bethel is, we're thinking it's more than $100,000 just to deal with services on North Bethel. So what Russell and I guess I can speak for you, Russell, but what we're thinking or what we're recommending to council is that we would push, we have to get the inventory done, and that's going to take time. I mean, it's probably a couple month effort. You have to do the inventory, we know, before 2024. The only reason we would get in a hurry to do it is for future planning for paving projects as we roll out the T-Splosh. For this particular effort that we're trying to get paving started as soon as possible, what our recommendation is that we would move North Bethel off until next year. In that, in its place, we would place South Bethel to just complete another portion of that in the same district. That particular delta we would replace the services on the other roads. The delta to that trade out is going to still put us in a positive position for our overall budget for T-Splosh this year. So the impact of that trade out would equal out and pay for the service replacement on the other roads that need it. I mentioned those as East Lee, East Thompson, and Davis. So we have to replace all those to the tune of $40,000. Our other projects would still be intact. North Bethel would be removed until next year, where we can get a handle on exactly what the scope needs to be. And we would continue with the project as contemplated. We would hit the pause button and get contractors out to replace. Possibly ESG could do the work, but probably we would go out for pricing to replace the services. We'd get that done in the month of November, and we would have the month of December to pave and there beyond.
What infrastructure grant monies are available to assist us, and this is a mammoth project.
That's right.
So what monies are out there?
Biden's infrastructure proposal in March, April of this year, and even the one I think that came after that, both included grant money for this effort. So will that ever get passed? Of course, we don't know. Other than GFO, which we already utilized to around a 50% grant scenario, or 55%. Other than that, there's not a lot of money out there. We can use ARPA funding. We can go out for ARPA funding right now, which is it. We're currently going out putting applications together for you to secure more grant money. We've got projects earmarked in that already that are critical. So what I would say to you is the inventory shouldn't be that costly. Once you start digging and replacing, if you're doing it on roads that we have T-Splosh money can go to that, toward that replacement. So that would be an infrastructure cost that could be covered. So we're in a good spot for the next few years. As it goes out beyond 2024, hopefully funding will come in. I mean, where does the money come from to do this, this sort of effort?
And this is going to be every drinking system.
This is nationwide. No matter how big, no matter how small, this is the initiative. Could be massive changes to it in the next 3 to 4 years, so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves trying to, if there's a change in administrations, for instance, it could change. The Trump policy was not nearly as robust as the latest iteration, but it was taken, even the environmentalists were relatively happy with Trump's policy, meaning that it was still pretty tough. It was going to be, there were a few differences with exactly how you would analyze what a lead service is, and some of that criteria is definitely hurting us. So
talk a little bit about the filtration for identification if there is a lead service. Do you have that?
Filtration?
Yeah, with the Brita filter, which you got to pull it out, monitor.
I've got some of the details.
We can cover that later.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of detail. I believe that what it is that if there's a lead service intact, we have to replace our side as the city. We'll end up getting tied into doing that work. If it goes, obviously, we have to notify the property owner that they have a lead service and recommend replacement at their cost on their side of the property. And then we are required as the city to provide them Brita filter replacements for some number of years while they are trying to get that so that we can remove any lead contamination. And that's Russell, I wish I remembered all the numbers, but I think it was a couple, they're given a grace period whereby they can replace it. The city's on the hook to provide filtration, just the Brita filter that you stick in your refrigerator up to that point. And then the sampling is a whole nother, it's a massive undertaking. And part of the inventory and what we need to turn in by the end of 2024 is a full sampling plan of how we're going to go about it. But the houses that do elect not to replace their services, you're also having to do samples on all of those. So How it's all going to come out and what our final recommendation will be to you once the dust settles is still uncertain of how we need to attack this as a community. But what is certain is Russell's fear and my fear of us having to run out and start digging up new pavement, because no one's going to like that. So, we're trying to kick it down the road, hoping for a final ruling on this in the next few months, and just try to see, can we keep our project moving forward? The other option for council to consider is, in light of this, do we push off the paving project, do a larger project next year in the springtime or something as such, where we have the inventories completed for the whole city? So my recommendation, and I believe Russell's recommendation that we discussed before, is that we just push North Bethel off, switch North Bethel and South Bethel. South Bethel was on our paving schedule for next year. We have some drainage improvements we want to do along South Bethel as well. So what we looked at this as an opportunity to pair the paving project with the drainage project and have all of that go off at once. North Bethel, we can start on, if we can find the dollars, we could start on an investigation on South Bethel and a changeover for those services as well. But we're waiting on tight costs on exactly what the service replacement is going to be. But I think my numbers are low, and I'm looking at a total price of $112,000 on North Bethel, just on my estimation. So.
Because there's other work to be done on South Bethel, so
Yes, sir.
you can get all that done and just shift this.
Yeah, we were already undertaking a storm drainage improvement project on South Bethel anyway that's needed, and what we were going to do, basically waiting for it to get paved next year, was we were just going to kind of patch in. Aesthetically, it wasn't going to be ideal, but because of the way the money worked out is where South Bethel hit, we would just get by aesthetically until we could come over with a nice surface coat next year under T-Splosh 2022. This will be the added benefit of trading out North Bethel, where we have concerns, and getting that total project completed on South Bethel. Should save us a little money on that as well. So I think it's a good trade-off, and Russell and I worked through that earlier today and thought it was a good way to kind of keep moving.
There's no new net. There's no net increase to your project cost. It's all contained, within the funding that we have in T-Splosh, but there is difference in the priority that council voted on, so we wanted to bring it back for your blessing before we issued the change order. And then, based on the amount of time it's going to take to get the services fixed and the availability of the contractor, we're looking at December-ish paving schedule, which gets into cold weather. The bad news on that is you could get delayed due to cold weather and rain events, but the benefit is, based on the spec that Trey wrote in, we have a mandatory 5-day cover-up, so you're not going to be stuck with milled streets all winter. They'll be down within a week. And we think that the pricing on this bid is probably as advantageous as we're going to get with price increases that we're seeing
Gas
across
prices,
the board.
yeah, especially which
So,
tracks
meaning if we push it to 22 and do the same work, it's probably going to cost more. So with the 5-day cover-up, I'm okay with the December let. If council is okay with moving forward, and also okay with bumping North Bethel for South Bethel.
And I think the pastor at the church on South Bethel will be glad to hear that.
Okay,
So I
good.
think that's a good.
So we need a motion?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So staff's recommendation would be to modify the paving priority to remove North Bethel and to add the South Bethel in its replacement, and also authorize T-Splosh funding for the water inventory and subsequent repairs as part of the project.
I'll make
So
that
ordered.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Councilmember Head?
Yes.
I would just add to you that I'll be much better organized on this rule once it becomes final. I told Russell I didn't want to dig into too much with you because it's still a little bit uncertain. This front part that we went through as far as the inventory is relatively certain. So, fair enough?
All right.
Next item, city manager's report.
Mayor, the first item for council's consideration is discussion and authorization to approve and set the rental rate for a vacant 3-bedroom unit that we have as part of our community development housing program. Staff's recommendation is to set the rent and rent only for the vacant 3-bedroom rate at $671 per month, which is based on the 2021 fair market rent documentation publication provided by HUD at 80% of the fair market rent value.
You heard that recommendation. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
There's a motion here, second.
I'll second on the vacant unit. Oh,
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussions? I know this was discussed previously in work session, previous to this meeting, so.
And I think one understanding is if by chance you put it out there were no people apply for it, you come back and reconsider it.
Correct. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Grayhouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
No?
Councilmember Hitt?
Yes.
The next item for council's consideration is discussion and approval and authorization for a revision to trash ordinance 1157. You should have a copy of the proposed revision. It's headed I-2 in your packet, specifically section 70-29 subsection 8. If you will look at the last sentence, I'll talk about the revision. So previously we addressed the return of trash cans that were supposed to be pulled back in accordance to the appropriate setback, which does differ depending upon zoning districts. However, we found that there were some that even within the setback requirement of the pullback were a little bit unsightly, so council has advised legal counsel to make a modification. So the new wording says that the container shall be removed from the curb or alley and placed at a point adjacent to the primary dwelling and at least 15 feet beyond the applicable setback. So what this will mean is that not only do you have to meet the setback, you have to go 15 feet beyond that or adjacent to the dwelling unit. So you have to pull it back to your house.
So let me, it
Or
says,
15 feet back from the setback.
I don't know where the setback is.
If persons have questions about the setback, they can contact City Hall, and I can check their zoning, or I can make a publication for R1 and R2 available online. The easiest answer is if you pull it back to your house, you don't have to worry.
yes, but Russell, let me just ask a question. It says, containers should be removed from the curb or alley and placed adjacent to the dwelling and at least 15 beyond the applicable setback. Is there a chance that it might not meet the second one? And so you'd still, why not, what is the point in saying at least 15 feet if it's next to the primary dwelling?
We were concerned about it being applicable to every property, and every property could be different. I was concerned, somebody brought up the back alley. And so that's why we put it adjacent to the home and at least with beyond 15 feet to the setbacks. That would be back setbacks, front setbacks, all the setbacks. I just don't know how else.
But could there be a case in which the house is so close that you couldn't meet the second? Is that possible? Or?
I would say in that case, it's going to be an enforcement discretion issue based on potential complaint of the violation. If code enforcement arrives at a property where the trash can has been rolled back to the property, then we're going to, acquiesce that there's no violation.
Yeah, you'll just do it one-on-one sort of, yeah. Because I think the ideal is let's get them back to the house and make sure that they're adjacent to the house.
Why don't we just say it that way?
Adjacent to the house?
I mean, because I can just envision code enforcement getting out there with a ruler or tape measure and, you know. it's a-
Because then you've got a side setback, right? And say they got a variance and they built a 0 lot line in a R2, and now their trash can's gonna be 3 feet from your house. The setback gives us some discretion, but it's gotta be at least 15 feet beyond that.
But it's not and/or, I mean, it's and. Up to the dwelling in 15 feet, right? I mean, I'm just trying to.
That's the reason we originally went with setback. So
Yeah.
the intent is put your garbage can up, and we're trying to policy and word an ordinance to put your trash can up, and it's not going to be a particularly perfect fit for every residential lot where there's a house on. This was kind of our best crack to make that happen.
I mean, I think what we're gonna find ourselves doing is they're gonna call and want somebody to come mark the setbacks on every house in the city so they can make sure they know where to put it.
We don't go on private property.
Well, I know, but my point, I know, that's my point. So how are we gonna, you tell them, if they call and say, I don't know where my setback is, how are we gonna tell them?
Put it by your house and keep it 25 feet away from your neighbors.
At least we're gonna know that they're gonna be by the house. They gotta be there. Yes.
Well, they could be behind the house.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a mess.
Why is that?
It's a mess.
That's not a dwelling unit.
I
Yeah.
know, that's why I keep it.
It's just a dwelling unit.
That's why I keep it.
And I can tweak this if somebody comes up with
Yeah,
you know, additional
we're open
language
to
or-
suggestions.
I just think
Absolutely.
this is, it's confusing. I mean, we're gonna be having code enforcement going over there and who's on first kind of thing, you know, where's the setback?
I think 98% of the issues on compliance are going to be the ones left at the curb. I think we can muddle through the other two via just, hey, would you mind? I think the original intent was to get them at least returned from the curb. And then we had people that would measure off 25 feet and just leave their trash cans.
Follow the law.
You know, we can say adjacent to the home. Does that mean adjacent to the front, the side, or the back?
Well, I don't think anybody's gonna put the trash can in front of the back door or the front door, so I don't think it would.
Mayor,
Yeah. The only,
this solves that problem.
yeah.
I mean, in theory, it sounds good, but again, I mean, you're gonna have people, where's the setback? Particularly who live in Silvertown on a back alley.
I think that's your biggest,
Huh?
that's the biggest issue. I think.
Yeah,
And most
I mean,
other places, it's kind of set different with that back alley.
Right. So I'm telling you, it's gonna be a problem.
So most of them are going to be a 25-foot setback, right? And then you got to go 15 feet beyond that.
I would just need to
Most
go out there.
houses are going to be deeper than that anyway, which means it's got to. It's probably going to be touching that house.
If we go to your house and just measure the back just to see how it, where it ends up. I mean, where does it end up?
Middle of the backyard.
I mean,
That's why I
We're
put
not,
it.
yeah, but it's gotta be adjacent to the house, meaning up against the house, right?
Correct.
so that whichever is further.
Yeah, and at least 15 feet beyond the applicable setback. So theoretically, the house is going to be on a 25-foot setback, and then you're going to move it back 15 feet. So if you've got a house that's closer to the rear setback, then theoretically your trash can might be on the front of your house, depending on how your lot lays out.
I think we need to think about this a little more.
Go look.
Yeah, I
Few of us drive out and look at the,
Once we got Silvertown, I know I'm gonna get pushback on this.
I'm gonna call you.
I mean, I already have a little bit, but, they're confused as to, of course, they haven't seen this, but on the original one, I mean,
Ryan, you don't think you're gonna get pushed back about it being adjacent to the house? It's just gonna be the confusion of how do I meet both of
Right,
those things
right.
and be in compliance?
Right.
What about 25 feet or adjacent to the dwelling, whichever is least.
Include and slash
Well,
or.
Russell, what I don't like about that is
That solves
because
the problem.
somebody might not put it adjacent to the house.
They've got to if you write it like that,
I thought you said 25 feet or.
or least. So the only way it could be less is if the house was entitled, right?
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, I understand the intent, I really do, but
That wouldn't
it's,
work.
it's gotta be clear to the citizenry, and I don't think this is clear. Unless we're gonna go mark every setback, it's 15 feet from that.
I think you look into more, and maybe even if it, they have a stipulation that if there is a back alley, I mean, if it's a normal place, maybe a normal, with no back alley, maybe it is
Right.
adjacent to the house.
Mhm.
If there's a back alley, that's where we get the trash from, maybe it needs to be X feet from the back alley.
Is there a back alley that looks up to the front of houses? I think that was a concern last time, but I
Well, it depends on which
can't
side
think
they, it could be the front to them, but.
of- Well,
okay.
that's what I'm asking, is there some like that? I'm
I
not
mean, I
sure.
think you do, there's some that you enter from the back.
Well, I don't think there's a back alley, hence the word back. I don't think.
Are you talking about an alley from, in the front?
Well, I'm asking, all the alleys would be the back of the houses.
Yes.
So there could be an exclusion for back alleys.
So what about a minimum of 25 feet or adjacent? Whichever is greater. That works, right? Because if it's adjacent beyond 25 feet, it's got to be adjacent to the house. But a minimum of 25.
I guess what we're trying to do is, if you've got, people don't want to smell their garbage, we're not saying that you got to put it next to your house.
Right. I think 25 feet or greater works.
Is that,
25 feet or adjacent, whichever is greater.
could you put it next to that storage building in the back of your house?
That's not a dwelling.
Exactly. But that is off, it looks clean there. I think
So
it looks
25
cleaner
feet
than it
from
would
what?
in.
You know, what we get into is aesthetics is in the eye of the beholder. We have residents that aren't gonna like that, we're gonna have people, so
Yeah.
what's a commonsensical approach to achieve the overall goal of what we're trying to accomplish?
I would have thought, but I'm not necessarily right. I would have thought if we simply said adjacent to the house. And that way it is at least, you know, I would always hope that it would be somewhat hidden, but nevertheless, say adjacent to the house. Then it's gonna be, it seems to solve the problem, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, but it doesn't solve his
I don't
problem.
think it's all, I think the Silvertown one is where it gets, with the back
Yeah.
alleys, gets totally different.
Why does it make a difference if you gotta be adjacent? Aren't you gonna, don't most, your trash is picked up from the back alley, right?
And most people, they used to have, some people had structures built out there for their trash can to go in right there at the back alley.
Right.
I mean, right there at the back alley. And then like, I keep mine next to the storage building in the back.
Okay.
It's right there, you know, it's right next to it, like it would be adjacent to a house, but it's a storage building, not adjacent to my house. A little further away from the house, not at the back alley either, that blows over or something.
Yeah, so you would want to exempt those?
I don't know. That's, I think me and him said, I think we need to drive through, look at some of
Yeah.
the places and say, if this is how this one's doing it, this is how, maybe we do need to make an exemption or something, or call for something different for back alleys as we do regular, I mean, cause they pick yours up front of the street in your front.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want it,
Yeah.
you know, close to, you wouldn't keep it close to the street. We keep it close to the back alley, but that's what it's been for ever. And it's, I don't know.
Russ, I kind of feel like they do. I feel like maybe we ought to, that's something I hadn't thought about.
People don't want trash at their house, so they put it out in the street. We're saying we don't want trashy out of the street, so put it at your house.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Well, but those back alley situations are a little different. I mean,
Yeah,
but
it's
then,
not
but then
as-
a lot of times you drive through there and there's like counters out there for weeks. You know, that looks bad. a trash can sitting out there by the back, like, to me, doesn't look, because I've seen it for 40-some years.
Depends on your neighbor.
Yeah, but like I said, but that one time I had a city manager live behind me, and his was bad.
Well, you know, if our trash service would pick up like they're supposed to, we wouldn't have the problem with the can. That's a whole other story, but.
Right, so this is, so we,
Let us work on some language.
Yeah, I want to go out there too and just to different, you know,
See,
go by
see
the
some
mayors
issues,
and then let's
see
just
some
go.
issues of where people couldn't do it.
Right,
And if y'all can give me some input, maybe we could work on it for next
Yeah.
agenda.
yeah.
That's why we said setback.
'Cause I'm-
Originally, because if
Well,
you could
I-
build a house there,
I get that, but I mean, again, nobody's gonna know where their setback is without somebody showing them.
it's one page in the zoning. I can put it online.
I just don't think it's gonna work.
The setback allows for this.
Yes, that was the issue.
Yeah.
Because Russell, we both gonna have a call tomorrow.
I blocked his number.
Um, But we're trying to solve this problem, and I feel like it needs at least another look.
Well,
And
unless you
maybe-
want to exclude Silvertown for now. Everybody's got a back alley.
What about the other side?
What I'm saying, but.
If they have back alleys
alley.
too? That's what, I guess that's what we need to look at.
Jeff, are you getting any across the street? Are you getting any
Not getting anything,
about how it was or how it?
not getting anything.
No,
But I guarantee, maybe 3 people have moved it on back alleys I've been through since we made the other ordinance. It's still all, everybody still keeps it out by the road the whole time.
If you call me, I can handle it.
Go give my mom a ticket.
I think particularly with those back alleys, I think we just need to think about that a little more.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's just me, it's my opinion. But
With the goal of having maybe something thought out and ready next, and I know it's
Yeah.
been thought out, but just ready for next meeting.
We can do that. So we're gonna table that, Mayor.
Yeah, we need to vote table this to next meeting until we can do that.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote to table.
Councilmember Greathouse?
All right.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Head?
Yes.
The next item for council's consideration is discussion and authorization to expend funds to purchase Public Works Department truck. If you'll look at your attachment headed I-3, you'll see 3 quotations. And I will tell you that trying to find an F-350 or its equivalent with a dump chassis right now is near impossible. So these aren't perfect equivalents, but we did consider them comparable in terms of they'll accomplish the work that we need. So for historical background, you'll see there, we currently have 2 of these with the dump beds on the bottom. Both of them are out of service. So the plan for Public Works was to get one fixed, scrap one, and then purchase a new one, and then look at something in the next budget year. The truck that we found was a GM 3500 with a dump body. It does have bid assistance. It's coming from actually Ohio, and it's being shipped here in the amount of $56,227. It was the cheaper of the comparables that we were able to find. It's not a line item per se in the Public Works Department budget. However, based on their annualized expenditure, we think they're going to be well within the department level funding to acquire the purchase, and the request is definitely being made by the Public Works Director because there are 2 trucks down right now. So with that, staff's recommendation is to authorize the purchase as denoted on I-3 in your handout, the amount of $56,227 from Byers Chevrolet in Grovetown City, Ohio.
When is we will be able to get it?
I don't have an ETA on the delivery, but a lot quicker than it would be ordering one from Ford. And for council's edification, we did check with a local Ford dealer prior.
So you said this is not a budget amendment, it's something that's in their budget?
It's within the departmental budget, so it won't require additional appropriation.
Okay. Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Yes.
The next item for council's consideration is discussion and potential authorization for appointments to the Historic Preservation Commission. Council has any nominations or recommendations?
Mayor, I have one. The Matt Crawford. I think everybody knows Matt is the son of Dr. Curtis and Mrs. Crawford. And he is currently in practice with his father at Hannah's Mill Animal Clinic. He recently married and with a new child. And they both, obviously both and a child, I believe that, live in Silvertown. And I think that's right. I'm not sure how they feel about this, but as far as the trash can ordinance, but I'll be certain to reach out to him. But no, he's born and reared in Thomaston, went off to school. Unfortunately, chose Georgia, but we won't. Please don't hold that against him. But no, Matt's is a nice guy, and I think he would certainly move back to home after school. Certainly has a love for Thomaston. I think would be a good addition to the Historical Preservation Committee.
You heard that motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Yes.
I guess I should have said Dr. Matt Crawford. Sorry.
The next item for council's consideration is discussion and potential approval of the 2021 year-end settlement refund from Electric Cities of Georgia, which is the analytics group of our power utility. This was a late addition. We actually received it today. Headed with your packet is I-5. It's on the very end. Based on 2021 numbers, the city's contract year-end settlement is $6,130.03. Staff's recommendation is to authorize the execution of this submission for that sum of money to be refunded via check and for those proceeds to be escrowed as part of our reserved money for debt defeasance on our power utility as appropriated for the 2021 budget.
You've heard that recommendation, do I hear a motion? Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
It's all the business I have, man.
Anything for executive?
Yes, one real quick, real estate.
All right. Anybody else have any other business? If not, I need a motion to go into executive session in a matter of real estate.
So moved.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves. Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Yes.
Serious.
Yeah, but then you gotta pay for all the gas and everything.
That's good. This does not work.
That's the break door.
It's a
We couldn't find a truck anywhere. You can't find the F-350 with a dump bed.
I found one. I saw one somewhere.
You know what? Even on the state of Georgia contracting, they changed it. They put their prices.
right.
Bye, y'all have a
See
good
ya.
night.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Shoot for 9 Friday if you can't make it, let me know.
We're in regular session.
Did everybody see JD's Ric Flair costume?
Nature boy.
See it?
Julian, that's pretty good.
We're back in regular session.
Check if anyone on there.
Julia Jensen, right.
I thought somebody was in. I guess not. All right, do you hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Reeves, I spoke to the entire group and made it very clear that on Tuesday nights, but they said tonight was the last Tuesday night they were going to be there.
But like I said, I was all right, I could deal with it. I didn't have to walk from the city center.
We got a 210% loss ratio on our health insurance renewal. 45%. No, no. Yes, no.
I know that's next week.
I mean, I don't know if it's back. Yeah.
Did they get you parking?